Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for Mainstream Live, some of you for the second time today due to Facebook's technical difficulties earlier. I'm Michael Poppa, the Executive Director for Mainstream Coalition, and I'm very excited to be speaking with U.S. Representative Sharice Davids of Kansas's 3rd District. Congresswoman, welcome.
Hi.
Appreciate you taking the time.
I'm glad you're doing this. I think that right now with everybody trying to figure out ways to connect with each other, this is a really great way to be able to see each other, get information, share information. So thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be able to. So, there is no doubt that these are difficult times and uncertain times for everyone across the country right now. How are you holding up?
It's interesting. I think that our office and me personally, we're experiencing something that a lot of people across the country and here in our own community are experiencing. We shifted to remote about, I think this is the 5th week. Our office has been working remotely. And so that's been a big adjustment that I think that we're starting to feel, we're starting to feel like we know what we're doing in terms of the virtual work. But, I think that I have a strong sense of gratitude because I know there are a lot of people who are not able to work virtually. There are a lot of people who are really struggling right now because of the way that this has impacted them, whether they're a small business owner or someone who has been furloughed or laid off. And so I feel very, I have a lot of gratitude because our office can continue to help the constituents here in the 3rd District, but we also have the opportunity to work from home. And then just kind of really quickly, that's more on the personal side, when the stay-at-home directive was announced, a bunch of the local animal shelters basically put out a call saying, hey, we want to limit the amount of time that any of our employees are coming in and volunteers. We need people to foster. And so my partner and I got a foster dog. She's about 1 year old. And then I don't know why we even said we were going to foster because, it took maybe 12 hours. And then we were like, let's sign this paperwork and keep Nala because, and she's brought a lot of, it's great to have a little dog in the house to lighten the mood. And she's super cute. So that's part of how I get
Right. Dogs definitely help. Pets help, right? No, did you say her name Nala?
Nala. Yeah. She came with that name. But she seems to like it because we had considered looking at other names, but it seems to suit her. I think we got it from Lion King.
Yeah, I think that's from Lion King. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you made a point before the pandemic, to be physically present in the 3rd District. So how are you now continuing to reach out to constituents and stay engaged with them through this time, despite the physical limitations?
Yeah, well, this is actually one of the reasons that I was felt grateful for you to reach out and ask if I would do this with you is because I think one of the ways that we can stay connected and learn and share information is through things like this, where we're doing Facebook Live events as well from our office. We talked to the Secretary of Labor, Secretary Garcia, not too long ago. We definitely encourage folks to go to our Facebook and watch that. She gave updates about how things are going. I know there's unfortunately a lot of people who are struggling right now with the unemployment numbers and filings. They're higher than they've been in 20 years. And so, she encouraged people. In fact, I'm going to put in a little plug for getkansasbenefits.gov, because I think that's one of the things that they saw is a huge spike in phone calls. And for folks who have access to the internet and can go to getkansasbenefits.gov, that might be a more effective way to be able to get connected with the unemployment and the services that they have there. And then, so that's one of the ways that we're putting out information is through our social media. We have a website. The coronavirus pandemic started off, and almost immediately we saw like, hey, people are looking for information about resources, about public health guidance and that sort of thing. So we started the coronavirus resource page on our website, and it's davids.house.gov/coronavirus. And hopefully we can send that over to you if you would mind disseminating that. That's another way that we've been able to stay connected. And then we're doing tons of teleconferences, tons of Zoom meetings and video conferencing and that sort of thing. And, I'm one of those people that likes to see people in real life. And, I like doing things like my Sharice's shift where I go and spend time at a local business. But, in the absence of being able to see each other in real life, doing things like this is, it's a really good way to try to stay connected with people.
Excellent. And it sounds, from what I've heard anyway, it sounds like you're doing a great job still. People are talking about how present you are now, even more so on social media.
Oh.
So thank you. Thank you for staying connected with us. We do appreciate it.
Oh, can I just also, like, for folks who, please reach out. And even though we're not physically present in our office, we are still, we're able to answer phones. We're able to continue to do constituent services because even though the coronavirus pandemic and this public health crisis we're in feels like it's all encompassing, there are people who are still trying to, people who are having to work with the IRS or trying to get veterans benefits or trying to access Social Security benefits and that sort of thing. We're still able to do that. So please, go to our website, reach out, call our office, and we can still help with that stuff.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So the best way to reach your office would be to then still call.
People can still call, and you can also still go on our website, and you can get access to our constituent services that way too.
And now, everyone out there, we are not watching the Facebook feed, or at least I'm not. We have our teams watching that for us. So I'm assuming that we'll be putting that information into the chat. And if we could, that would be great if it's already there. Thank you very much. How to contact and.
Sorry. Yeah, I think.
Oh, no, that's okay.
It's
one of the wonderful things about Zoom.
Someone from our team will put the phone numbers and the website now.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So you mentioned earlier about unemployment, and we've seen record numbers in Kansas. So what are some of the things that Congress has done or that needs to do to help more people that have lost their jobs or people that have been furloughed maybe due to the coronavirus?
Yeah. Well, so there's a couple of things. So Congress has, just big picture overview, Congress has passed 3 pieces of legislation that the president signed as soon as it hit his desk, all bipartisan, that have been geared toward the coronavirus response. And those packages, the first 2 were really aimed at making sure that the resources were there and to help with the actual health response. Then we had the public health piece and starting to move into economic security. So the second package had some increased unemployment benefits. So the third package, which is the one that we're calling the CARES Act, that one included a lot of things that I was really pushing for, which was increased unemployment provisions, and making sure that people who are part of the gig economy or self-employed folks could access those. There's an additional $600 provision in there that's good for the next 4 months. And I know our states have to, so Kansas is working on making sure that all of these things are included in the benefits that they're and relief that they're providing to people. And then probably the thing that a lot of people are curious about is the Paycheck Protection Program, which is aimed at our small businesses. So, you know, I mean, small businesses are the backbone of our economy. Like half of the people who work in the private sector work for a small business. And, you know, you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about folks getting laid off or furloughed. That has had such a huge impact. And we've got small businesses that are trying to keep people on payroll so that they're not having to try to access the unemployment benefits. And this Paycheck Protection Program is one of the things that can help do that. Unfortunately, the thing I'm feeling frustrated, and I think it's because I'm hearing from so many small business owners who are feeling the frustration of you know, the congressional intent, and when we passed this bill, was to get the relief into the hands of the small business community as soon as possible. And right now we're running into some issues with that, and it's looking like people getting some, even in the case of people who have been getting approved, have been waiting for a long time and I say long time, recognizing that right now, a day, 2 days, 3 days, it's like an eternity for a business that is trying to make sure that they can make payroll. And so I think that this is one of those places where you know, we're butting up against the Small Business Administration has certainly been overwhelmed with requests for relief under this program. And you know, I think you asked what should Congress be doing. I've been pushing for us to get more money into that program, because it's gonna be oversubscribed in the very near future, and we just got started. So you know, that's something that my hope is that we'll see Congress come together again in a bipartisan way, and that the president will get this next set of relief signed, and that it definitely needs to include more relief for our small business communities. And then I also think that Congress, you know, I've been advocating for us to, well, even before this, I've been advocating for us to expand Medicaid in Kansas. And I had been working really diligently on a bill to try to build up support and get it to the floor, a bill that would incentivize states like Kansas that haven't expanded Medicaid yet. And so I'm pushing for us to get additional money to incentivize states to get expanded Medicaid, because you know, it depending on what statistics you look at, 130 to 150,000 Kansans would have access to healthcare were we to expand Medicaid.
Yeah, it would be a significant amount of people that could access healthcare finally in Kansas. So hopefully we see some continued movement there. And I'm not just speaking, you know, from you, but just from the state itself. And thank you for supporting that. And I know that we have a limited amount of time because you had to reschedule some things to be here with us. And again, that was very gracious, and I do appreciate it. But one last question from me, because we all saw that the governor put in place those numerous public safety measures, including limiting the gatherings of 10 or fewer, and that included religious gatherings. Supreme Court then obviously ruled that the legislature didn't have the right, or the LCC didn't have the right to revoke that. So what do you make of that? What were your thoughts?
Well, so the governor has had to make a lot of really tough decisions that I think she knows that at the end of the day, what we need to do is slow down the spread of the coronavirus. So taking actions like limiting public gatherings to 10 or fewer, even when it comes to religious gatherings, was done as a measure to literally to save people's lives. And to have some of the folks in the Kansas legislature take what I consider to be a pretty extreme step and overruling the executive order to limit gatherings for religious gatherings. That was irresponsible, and frankly, it put people's lives at risk. We've seen already that that sometimes those gatherings become what they call super spreading events, and people. I think it's so hard this has been so hard on people in terms of the amount of stress, the anxiety, the idea of not being able to spend. For some people, this is like one of the most important weekends for their faith practice, and to not be able to do that with family and loved ones was, I'm sure, heartbreaking for a lot of people. And so it was a hard decision for the governor to make. But at the end of the day, I think when we look across the state at the faith leaders that stepped up and encouraged their congregations to please practice social distancing, we had faith leaders who were exhibiting so much leadership in terms of trying to keep their community safe. And I felt a lot of, it was heartwarming to see people trying to figure out ways to make sure that their community would be able to practice their faith in whatever way was going to be safest for their congregations. And I didn't agree with the way the state legislature acted. I am glad that the Kansas Supreme Court stepped in and did what they did. And it's commendable the leadership we saw from a lot of the faith community over this past weekend.
Yeah, it was pretty phenomenal to see all the different congregations, as you mentioned, going online or on television to worship together, and like you said, the faith leaders stepping up and having their congregations heed that call.
And
in the face of.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, please.
Oh, I was just going to say also, one of the things that we see a lot is that it's not the easiest thing, and sometimes it's an impossible thing for people to be able to access the internet. There are a lot of parts of here in this area where people just don't have access to the internet, and so there are faith communities that are doing telephone calls that are on the radio waves, and so I think that there is an effort for people to try to connect in whatever way possible, and I think that those are the kinds of things that are really going to be just it's when it's such a hard time for so many people, seeing people just like going to every effort and taking these extraordinary steps to try to connect with people. It's pretty phenomenal.
And again, this is what we're here for today, and I want to thank you again for being here. We are at our time limit. I know you have your next thing to get to, your
so
next video call. Yes, definitely. And I'd like to again reiterate, I believe your contact information is in the chat now for Facebook, our Facebook live chat. And I apologize that we couldn't get to any of those live questions, but I was way too interested in what we were talking about here. But you can call into Congresswoman's office or contact via the contact information in the chat. Thank you again. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope to see you on the screen again soon.
Yes, and it would be nice to see you in real life when we're on the other side of this.
Yes, I can't wait.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.